1. Trump versus Biden, the rules of the game. What's a win? And most importantly, what are the stakes in the first presidential debate of 2024? A conversation with Trump 2024 National Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. 2. The Trump P-tape. Trump grabbed the wheel of the beast. Inflation was at 9% when Biden took over. What hoaxes will have to be rebutted tonight in the CNN presidential debate? And which hoaxes did you fall for? 3, reaction to our conversation with Kevin Costner, plus drafting the best of Kevin Costner. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page, streaming coast to coast on terrestrial radio from Wyoming to Texas, from Virginia to California. And always on demand at Apple or on Spotify. Just hit subscribe or subscribe right here on YouTube or on Facebook to hang out every Monday through Thursday at lunchtime, 12 o'clock Eastern time with the Will Cain Show. You guys had some comments, some reaction to our one-on-one interview, 20 minutes with bona fide movie star Kevin Costner. And not all of it positive. You had some things to say. And you know what? I have some things to say in response. I have some thoughts to your response. I have a reaction to your reaction to our interview with Kevin Costner. Plus, would you pick, say, Open Range? Or would you take Yellowstone? Would you take Tin Cup? Or would you take Rumor Has It? The Willisha and I will draft the top Kevin Costner movies and TV shows over his career. All that's coming up a little bit later here on the Will Cain Show. But Trump versus Biden, we get you ready for the CNN presidential debate, simulcast on Fox. There was a moment in preparation for this debate talking about the rules, the moderator, the arguments that will be made by Biden and by Trump, where Trump 2024 National Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt appeared on CNN. And then this happened between Caroline Leavitt and CNN host Casey Hunt.
It takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently,
we're going to stop this interview if you're going to keep attacking my colleagues.
Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to come back out to the panel. Ma'am, I'm here to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Caroline Leavitt cut off, muted, silenced, run off the screen by CNN. What does that tell us about what we might expect in tonight's CNN presidential debate? Let's get to it with story number 1. She is the Trump 2024 National Press Secretary. She is Caroline Leavitt. You just heard her on CNN, and now you get to hear her right here on the Will Cain Show. Hi, Caroline.
Hey, Will. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
I'm glad to have you. Maybe, we'll see how it goes. Maybe give a little more leeway to explain what you think might happen in tonight's presidential debate. How was that? Were you surprised? Did you keep talking? Did you know you were off camera when they shoved you off screen on CNN?
So I actually didn't. I was doing the interview from a remote studio that did not have a monitor that was showing me the program. So I kept talking about immigration and inflation and all of the issues President Trump will talk about in the debate tonight. And then a producer had to come in my ear and tell me, ma'am, you've been kicked off the program. And I was like, what? So I had to go to my TV at my house and watch it real quick. And it was truly shocking. It really was. I mean, all I was doing was repeating statements that Jake Tapper has made in the past, and they shut me off. They don't like the truth, I guess.
Well, you know what's funny is I've done enough television throughout my career, and Caroline's doing an incredible job. You're also fairly new at this, but I can only imagine what was going through your mind, Caroline, because like when you're remote like that and all you get is sound coming through your ear, this little earpiece that you can hear the remote anchor. You were probably sitting there thinking, wow, all of a sudden she's giving me a lot of leeway. All of a sudden she's not interrupting me. I can really get my thoughts out. And you were talking, and all of a sudden, wow, I've got like 2 minutes uninterrupted on CNN. But there had to have been a little insecurity, like, am I still on air? Am I? Because she was interrupting me, ma'am, like every 15 seconds, and now all of a sudden she's letting me talk. There had to have been a little bit like of insecurity. What's going on?
There was a little bit of hesitation in the back of my brain. I was being interrupted so fearlessly by her for so many seconds that it was all scrambled up. But when I went back and watched, it was clearly Casey, who was very, very frazzled by the interaction. And I think it's unfortunate, by her doing that, her cutting off my microphone, she definitely proved our campaign's entire point this week, which is that President Trump's walking into a 3-on-1 fight in this debate. We know these moderators have a long history of anti-Trump statements, and Casey really exposed.
Oh, careful, Casey, ma'am, I can't, ma'am. If you're going to attack my colleagues, we're going to have to mute her, guys. We're going to have to mute her. Okay, she's been muted. Like, you're welcome to come on anytime, Caroline, but you can't talk about my media colleagues. I'm sorry. You're welcome to come back on and talk about Biden and Trump, but see, she's muted right now. She doesn't even know it, right? You can see her mouth moving, but she's not. All right, let's bring Caroline back. Ma'am, you're back. Sorry, you're just not allowed to talk about our media colleagues here, Caroline.
Unbelievable. It really was. The whole thing was crazy.
Let's get to the substantive point you were making. And I do want to talk about what's happening in this debate. Look, let's be real. And that's what you were. You were being real. It is going to be 3-on-1. And you were making the point. We have history. Like, we know what Jake Tapper said. We know what Dana Bash has said. We know who they've worked for, what parties they've actually worked for in the past. So why do we have to pretend that all of a sudden, and by the way, we also know how they've handled themselves over the past 8 years when it comes to Donald Trump. So why all of a sudden are we supposed to believe they've taken some magic potion, an elixir, that tonight that will accomplish some level of objectivity?
Yeah. Well, that's that's the whole point, again, that we've been trying to make. And the most frustrating part is that they're being fraudulent. They're trying to pretend like they're the most trusted name in news and that Jay Tapper is truly an unbiased journalist. I mean, absolutely not. If you look at his statements, which I was trying to repeat on air, he has compared President Trump to Hitler, which is disgusting. He said after the 2020 election, President Trump's presidency was a long national nightmare. On and on it goes. And so just own it, right? Like, if you're a liberal pundit and you can't stand Donald Trump, that's okay. There's plenty of them out there. All right. We're used to that. But don't pretend to be an unbiased, truly fact-seeking journalist, because you're just not. And they think they're trying to fool the American people. I think voters and those that are watching tonight know better. And again, we know fully well what we're getting ourselves into, and President Trump does too, but he's doing it anyway because he's not afraid. And he delivered on his promise to debate Joe Biden anytime, anywhere, any place.
I put myself, Caroline, into the position of someone like Tapper or Bash. Okay, so you're already making these arguments about their lack of objectivity. And they have to know at least 50% of the audience is also going to expect, some level of a lack of objectivity from them because they know reality. So then their instinct is going to be to actually try to accomplish some sense of objectivity. They will. I promise. It doesn't mean they'll succeed, but they'll find little moments. I don't know what it will be, Caroline. Maybe it's if Joe Biden comes out there and says, when I took over, inflation was 9%. That's going to require a fact check, right, on Joe Biden. And maybe they do it. Maybe they do. Maybe they even, this will blow my mind, maybe they do it with the very fine people thing, right? I don't know. My gut is that Joe Biden actually won't say that now because it's been fact checked by Snopes and he's got to expect that he won't get away with that lie. Right. But there will be a moment where they're going to feel compelled to illustrate some sense of objectivity on a Joe Biden lie. Mm-hmm. But what they're going to be competing against, Caroline, is the opinion of their colleagues. Like, we know what happened when Chris Licht took over. Chris Licht took over CNN and tried to bring in some semblance of balance. And he was ran out of CNN as president of CNN. So if Jake Tapper tries to come in and show some semblance of balance, he'll be burned at the stake by his fellow colleagues at CNN.
Right. Exactly. There's going to be a conflict of interest in their hearts, I would imagine, especially, with their own bias, right? Like they clearly have made their opinions of Trump very well known, but also they understand that millions of people are going to be watching, expecting them to unfairly treat President Trump. And I think, if they truly believe in their heads that they're fair journalists, they're going to hopefully present themselves in that way tonight. So we hope that they will do the right thing. We hope they will ask good, tough questions of both candidates that are relevant to what the American people actually care about in this country, from immigration to inflation to the wars that we see all over this world. But again, it has yet to be seen. It will be an interesting night, to say the least.
How do you guys, Caroline, prepare for that? So, okay, you can't outsource a fact check. You hope you can, right? You guys can sit there and you and I can talk about it, and we can hope for that from Jake Tapper or Dana Bash, but we should definitely not expect it. So then the instinct will be, and that's not new, Donald Trump has dealt with that in 16 and 20, I need to be the fact check, right? I'm going to have to, if he says something like inflation was 9% when I took over, well, I've got to go, no. But you're going to have two problems. Let's go through them one at a time. The first problem, they're going to mute him. We've seen the technology, and CNN did a whole thing on it where you can see if your mic is green or not, and they did an illustration. If your mic's not green, you can't hear it. You won't be able to hear him. It'll look, when I was joking around with you about muting you a minute ago, I'll see Donald Trump's mouth moving, but I won't be able to hear him fact-checking Joe Biden. So that's problem number one, Caroline.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a requirement that was asked for by the Biden campaign, by his handlers, clearly to protect him. They know that he is incapable of standing up there for 90 minutes and truly getting into a heated back and forth exchange with President Trump. So I think that we know this was a way to protect Joe Biden in tonight's debate. With that said, we still readily accepted their terms because President Trump can obviously handle it. He gives hours-long speeches to crowds of thousands of people all the time, oftentimes not using a teleprompter. He does hostile interviews with the news media frequently, far more than Joe Biden does. So he's prepared and he's ready for anything. And I think the fact that Joe Biden's campaign really demanded so many requirements shows you how much pressure they know is on Joe Biden to perform. He is the incumbent president. He is deeply unpopular. He's behind in the polls and President Trump in this race. He really needs to perform tonight, and they've done everything they can to set the stage perfectly for him to do so, including hiding him away at Camp David for the last week, drilling talking points into his brain. And, Will, I think one of the most underreported stories of this past week is that fact that the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, cannot prep for a debate and also govern at the same time. And that's deeply concerning that our president cannot do a few things at once. He has to hide away. We haven't heard from him in a week. We've had thousands of people storm our border. We have real problems on our hands, and he can't address them while also prepping for tonight. But it shows how much pressure his team knows is on this debate.
Well, okay, so I think I agree with you in part, Caroline. I mean, you're making a good point. Like, if you're the incumbent, the pressure's on you. Mm-hmm. But then there's this idea percolating out there, and I think it has some relevance, and that is, in fact, I think you guys have given it credibility. I think Donald Trump has given this idea credibility, that the bar has been lowered for Joe Biden so much that people have talked about his lack of mental competency, his age, his senility, so much that if he goes out there and doesn't fall on his face, he will have met expectations, which puts the pressure back on Donald Trump. And I think that this is where I think that you guys, I think Donald Trump has given it credibility. Who did I see him with? Maybe it was on the All In podcast. I can't remember where I saw a clip of Donald Trump saying, well, he was actually giving Joe Biden a little bit of props. He was like, well, he's done this before, he gets up for these big things. And of course, talks about the drug test, but he's re-establishing the bar, Caroline. He's saying, don't set your expectations so low for Joe Biden. And that, I think, if they have been lowered, puts the pressure back on Trump.
Well, I think two things can be true at the same time. One, Joe Biden is mentally and physically declining. There's no way around that. Anyone with eyeballs has been able to witness that for the last 3.5 years. He does stumble over his words. He does trip over his own feet. We've seen it occur. With that said, Joe Biden is also a career politician who has engaged in more than 40 debates since 1972. He has been in politics for 51 years. That is longer than many of the viewers watching tonight's debate have been alive. And so there will be some muscle memory, undoubtedly, that kicks in for Biden on the debate stage tonight. Again, he's been preparing for this now for a week, not doing anything else, so he best be prepared. And his team knows that he has to perform for big nights like this. You know, we recall the State of the Union address. Many have said perhaps he was artificially stimulated for that performance. Rightfully so. He clearly brought a different energy and vigor to that night than he does on a daily basis. And we should expect to see that same Joe Biden tonight.
You do. So your camp, the Trump camp, Donald Trump, expects to see a Joe Biden that is energetic, amped up, ready for this debate.
Of course, he has no other choice. He has to show up in that way, or else it will be a devastating blow to his already failing campaign. And that is why, again, he has been holed away in the woods for a week, prepping for this night, because his advisors know how badly he needs to show up.
With Caroline, Donald Trump's not been shy. I mean, he said, I want drug tests. I'll submit to a drug test. Joe Biden should submit to a drug test. Is it your belief that it's less important what you, Caroline Leavitt, but is it the belief of the campaign? How do you think he's getting up for these moments? Do you think it is a performance enhancer? It is some type of stimulant?
I do. I mean, many medical people have come out and said that. And again, just being an honest individual with eyes, you saw him at the State of the Union. He was very different than he is on a daily basis when we see him engaging in meetings with foreign leaders from the Oval Office, when we watch him give 15-minute teleprompter speeches where he shuffles off of the stage. He was clearly more focused that night. And so I think it's a reasonable conclusion. And President Trump does too. And that's why he has called on Joe Biden to participate in these drug tests. And if the Biden campaign wants to prove that Biden doesn't have to be artificially jacked up for nights like this, then why don't they commit to a drug test? The offer's on the table. They have refused to accept it. If they want to prove us wrong, then do so.
So I think this is actually incredibly important. I don't think this is like silly partisan talking points. I think this is incredibly important because the implications are, if the president of the United States requires some type of stimulant to be up for big moments, what does that mean about his ability to govern on a day-to-day basis? Exactly. And I even think that extends beyond, I think it even extends beyond medicines. I think even if the low bar of requiring extra sleep, even if he requires extra sleep to get up for the State of the Union or extra sleep to get up for the debate, that's important to know about the guy we're electing to be the leader of the free world, because if in order to be on his A game, our president needs 14 hours of sleep, that diminishes the number of hours he can actually devote to leading our country. All these things, my point is, I think it's incredibly important. I think this conversation is not just partisan attacks. And I agree with you, Caroline, about the common sense of what we all see. I just think, and by the way, you can walk around in the world and people just bring it up. They do. And because it's our common sense. But I've directly had this debate with people on the left who say it's irresponsible for you, Will Cain, or you, Caroline Leavitt, to say that if you don't have some form of proof. It's irresponsible for you to suggest he's on name your drug if you can't name the drug. What do you say to people that say, burden of proof on you, and if you can't satisfy it, you're being incredibly irresponsible by accusing the President of the United States of taking drugs before a debate?
I would say the burden of proof is on the Biden campaign to prove us wrong. And again, I would say our proof is our eyes and common sense and watching him, again, on nights like State of the Union versus on a daily basis where he cannot even walk up a flight of stairs. So again, if the Biden campaign wants to prove us wrong, they have an opportunity to do so, and they're refusing. I wonder why.
So I mentioned, coming back to our conversation, that I had two concerns about Donald Trump playing the role of fact checker, which I suspect is going to be required of him, because I do not think it's fair for any of us to accept that CNN plays the role of fact checker. The first concern we explored, which is the use of technology to mute Donald Trump. The second is the stylistic vibe that Trump establishes. You know, we would like to believe that debates are about policy and positions, because they should be, Caroline. But I remember this, and I've shared this on this show several times. I think it was Ronald Reagan's campaign or communications advisor said, for better or worse, it is as follows: 80% how you look, 15% how you sound, 5% what you say. And how you sound, that 15% for Donald Trump has gone both ways. In the first debate against Joe Biden, he was very aggressive. He interrupted a lot. He played the role of fact checker. And I know he knows this, by the way. He had reviews that were like, you were too much. And he's talked about this from the rally stage. You were too mean. And then in the others, he laid back. And he was more cordial and kind. And you could even argue more strategic in giving Joe Biden the room to show how he could fail on his own. And so if Donald Trump has to play fact checker in the CNN presidential debate, simulcast on Fox tonight, he runs the risk, I think, Caroline, of maybe choosing that path of of 2020's first debate, which could hurt him in that 15% of how you sound.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it's obviously incredibly frustrating to hear someone lie so much. And Joe Biden lies a lot. On the debate stage in 2020, he lied about the existence of the Hunter Biden laptop. He said it was a Russian smear campaign. We obviously knew that was false then. We know it to be false now. And so hopefully CNN will play a role in holding Biden accountable for some of these lies and asking him good questions about the lies he's spewed over the last 3.5 years. But as for President Trump, you know, the goal is to stay focused on his policies and his vision to make this country great, and his plan to secure the border, his plan to rebuild the economy. But as for fact checking, our campaign is taking on a lot of that ourselves. We actually launched a website today, factcheckbiden.com. You can go to it now. I would encourage your audience to bookmark it for the debate tonight. You're going to need it. When Joe Biden starts spewing many of his classic lies, we already have the facts and the truth, and we will be actively fact-checking the fact-checkers all night long as well. We know there's many of them out there. They are on the left. They like to fact-check Donald Trump, but not Joe Biden. So we'll be making sure these fact-checkers are
you talking about
doing their job.
CNN's Daniel Dale? Daniel Dale, CNN's fact-checker, has suddenly been rehired. If you're talking about him, I might have to mute you again. You cannot talk about CNN personalities, Caroline. We've established that. You won't be invited back to the panel. But okay, so what you're telling me is, what I'm hearing, I think, is I should expect a Donald Trump that more resembles the version of Donald Trump in debate 2 and 3 with Joe Biden in 2020, more so than the Donald Trump I saw in the first debate in 2020.
I think you should expect the President Trump you've seen on the campaign trail this election cycle in 2024. He has been incredibly disciplined, focused on the issues that matter, on his solutions to solve the many problems that Joe Biden's just disastrous administration have created for the American people in the last few years. And that's why he's winning. He has a winning message. He has the momentum in this race because he has, a winning message to uplift all Americans. And you're going to hear him talk about that tonight. Now, as for, expectations, the media has been talking all week about hypotheticals. As President Trump has said himself, a debate is like a boxing match, and you adjust and you adapt throughout the fight accordingly. And he will be ready to do that.
It's really good, Caroline. I mean, I'm always on the lookout. Like, is this talking points? I'm serious, because that's what happens when you go into politics. But when I ask you, is it going to be more first debate or second and third debate, and you kind of pivot and go, no, Will, it's going to be 2024 Trump. I don't think it's just talking point, because he has been different. He has been a new version of Trump. And here's the thing, Caroline, I think it's working. I think, I hear more people. Well, here's what I want to know. I'll tell you what I know, and you tell me what you know. What I know is just talking to people, and people say to me, and I'm not talking about like I've been a Trumper for 8 years type people. I'm talking about other people, the key ones, the ones you got to win anew, right? Saying stuff like, wow, he's just way more disciplined. And I think as what they're saying when they say he's more disciplined is that he's maybe more likable, but more presidential. Because I think that's becoming the debate. Joe Biden faltering and being senile and physically frail doesn't look presidential. And if Donald Trump, even though he's been president, we know, can appear not petty and not combative, but actually above Biden, he looks presidential. And that's what I'm hearing kind of newly, I would say in the spring of 2024.
There is definitely a palpable shift in this country right now amongst Americans of all backgrounds. Doesn't matter what state we go to, doesn't matter the color of their skin or how much money they make. They are supporting President Trump for various reasons, but mainly because they feel the contrast in their lives with his policies versus Biden's policies. And this is such a unique election in that way. We have a former president and a current incumbent president facing off with one another in such a short period of time where people can really feel that contrast and how policies have impacted them and they remember it tangibly. And that's a very powerful message for us because we know President Trump's policies were better. And so we see that in our internal polling across all demographics. We see it with the money that our campaign is raising. President Trump in the last 2 months has outraised the Democrats by a significant margin. And the most amazing part is that the average donation to our campaign is just over $70, which tells you that this haul is coming in from average hardworking Americans out there who are just fed up with Joe Biden and who are inspired by President Trump's aspirational and optimistic message. And our hope is that tonight will give President Trump another great opportunity to draw that contrast.
Okay, so what's a win? Describe for me a Donald Trump win tonight.
A win is CNN truly being fair. A win is CNN asking good questions on issues that actually matter and giving President Trump, again, that opportunity to really focus on the policies of his first term and his plans for his second term.
All right, last question for you, Caroline. This has been an awesome conversation, by the way. I didn't have to mute you, but one time. It's been wonderful. You haven't insulted Sean Hannity or Pete Hegseth, and therefore I had to kick you off the panel. No, this has been great. It's actually really insightful. So this is what I wonder. This is my final kind of piece of conversation with you here. The stakes. It's interesting. On surface, you always go, well, the stakes are, who wins to be president of the United States. But I think the stakes are different for this debate. I'm not even sure that is the stakes. To my knowledge, to my quick recollection of history, I don't remember having a presidential debate in the summer before the conventions. It's just kind of super odd, right? I have to wonder if the stakes for what happens tonight is not who wins the presidency, but who actually ends up running for president of the United States. This is back to the pressure on Biden versus Trump. I definitely think Donald Trump will be the nominee for Republicans. But I think Joe Biden's performance tonight could be impacting who the Democratic nominee for president is. That's what I'm thinking about when I think about the stakes.
And I think you're right about that. And our campaign does too. And that is why we launched 2 ads this morning in the battleground states to run during the debate tonight. One of them is focused on the failed promises of the Biden administration. But the second is reminding voters that a vote for Joe Biden in this election is actually a vote for Kamala Harris. And that could maybe happen sooner if Joe Biden truly bombs the debates on the debate stage tonight. But look, at the end of the day, a majority of Americans understand that there's simply no way that Biden can make it through 4 more years. He does not have the physical or mental stamina to do so. And so reminding voters that as bad as you think Biden is, his vice president is a heck of a lot worse. And we could be stuck with cackling Kamala at the end of this race. And I think that is a powerful message to deter voters from voting for the Biden-Harris ticket.
It's a really good point, by the way. I mean, we're going to be talking about for the next 24 hours, and we should, but can Joe Biden make it through a debate? Can he make it through 90 minutes? But the real question, the real debate is, can he make it through the next 4 years? And that one seems to be more obvious than whatever can get him through 90 minutes tonight. Really good conversation. Caroline Leavitt. See what happens when you let someone talk and you have a good time. You be a real person.
Like normal people, we're just having a good old chat.
All right,
It's
Trump,
possible.
2024 National Press Secretary. Yeah, and by the way, you might be up there. You might be right there at the. I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions, but press. You might be getting used to that kind of interaction with CNN. You might be if Donald Trump wins, you might be the press secretary, right?
Well, we have to win first. We're going to focus on that. Thank you, Will.
I didn't think. See, that discipline in and of itself suggests that she's qualified for the job. That'd have been some if she said yes. All right, Caroline Leavitt, thanks so much today for being on the Will Cain Show.
Thank you, Will. Good to see you.
All right, you too. We'll be watching tonight the CNN presidential debate simulcast on Fox. Ma'am, if you do not stop talking about my colleagues, I'm going to have to kick you off the network. It's pretty funny, by the way, that Caroline kept talking. It's like when you drop a call on your phone, and you don't know, and you keep talking, and you have to call them back and be like, where was I? And then you're so disheartened when they tell you the last thing you said, and you're like, I talked for like 4 minutes after that. That happens on TV. It happened to Caroline Leavitt on CNN. Hopefully it doesn't happen to Donald Trump tonight in the first presidential debate. Hey, speaking of fact-checking, we got a list, a long list, an inventory, a warehouse, a clearinghouse of hoaxes that could be run out tonight. Let's go through, I don't know if we can go through all of them, but we can hit a lot of them and ask ourselves here on The Will Cain Show, which ones did you fall for? That's next on The Will Cain Show.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown. Every Monday and Friday, Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you. Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Breaking stories and top headlines, the economy, and so much more. Brought to you by Fox News, America's #1 cable news network. Plus, setup couldn't be easier because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News.
It's the latest when you need it, on demand, from Fox News and Amazon Alexa. From the Fox News Podcast Network.
I'm Emily Campagno, and this is the Fox True Crime Podcast.
And I had nothing to do with her disappearance, but people still accuse me of it.
I sit down with the people who lived the nightmares.
I was in shock. I was just devastated.
The investigators who tirelessly worked on the case.
I feel for their families, and I really hope that they can catch this guy.
Bringing you closer to the story than you ever thought possible.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Which hoaxes did you fall for? It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, and you can always hang out with the Will Cain Show. Join the community, leave a comment. Like the following, we just had Caroline Leavitt, Trump's 2024 National Press Secretary, on ahead of the CNN presidential debate tonight to break down what we can expect. Great conversation. That was really good. Blimpus on YouTube says, they're going to cut Trump's mic every time he speaks, saying we can't broadcast lies on our network. Well, you know what, Blimpus? That's a really good point. I mean, that's the MSNBC model, at least. Like, they won't even take a Trump rally. They won't take a Trump speech. They wouldn't even do it when he was president of the United States under the banner of we don't broadcast lies, which is a laughable joke. Will CNN do that? Well, I mean, they've acted that way in the past. They've said those kind of things in the past. So in a presidential debate, who knows what they'll call a lie, because we're about to get to a bunch of the lies that they've told about Trump, and they would mute him when he tells the truth. Rob D says, I think it was a mistake to take this debate without negotiating. It won't be enough after the fact to call it rigged. That will feed into the narrative. Trump thinks everything is rigged. Well, to that point, I was going to bring that up with Caroline Leavitt. Okay, if his mic is muted, then he can't fact check and interrupt Biden in real time. If he's only given a certain amount of time, you know how they do that in debates, you have 2 minutes to respond, then he has to remember and then fact check everything that Biden just said while his mic was on. So therefore, he has to eat his time up fact-checking what Biden had just said during his 2 minutes. And again, it's going to be because the CNN moderators won't fact-check Biden on this whole list of hoaxes coming up in just a moment here on the Will Cain Show. And then Ricky LaFleur says, I hope Trump whips out his own. When I first read that, I was like, oh, Will, read the whole comment before you read it. I hope Trump whips out. That was the point when I got nervous. I hope Trump whips out his own microphone once they mute him. How funny would that be? He wouldn't be able to, because he wouldn't be able to pipe into the system. But like, what if he pulled out like a bullhorn? You know, because his audio would be picked up over on Biden's mic over there. He just whips out like a megaphone or a bullhorn to. It's like Reagan. What did Reagan say? Sir, I paid for this microphone. Just starts fact checking through a bullhorn over at Joe Biden. What will need to be fact checked? What would likely be ignored by the CNN fact checkers like Daniel Dale or even the moderators, Jake Tapper or Dana Bash? Let's bring in the Willisha. Tinfoil Pat, Young Establishment James, and Two-A-Days Dan. I want to go through some of these hoaxes. Last couple of days on the Will Cain Show, the last week, we've talked about one of them, which is the Very Fine People hoax. Snopes, I don't know, has now 7 years later admitted that was a hoax. And by the way, Joe Biden said that was his inspiration for running for president. What Trump said at Charlottesville. Of course, he didn't say it. You just have to play the whole clip. So, like, it's not inconceivable that Joe Biden would again say it tonight because, again, his inspiration for running against Trump. But more likely will be something like the following. And this was pointed out by Mays on X. Inflation was at 1.9% when Biden took office, not the 9% Biden currently claims. This is a verifiable fact. In June of 2021, Biden said inflation would not be a problem and that he wasn't worried about it. So he will most likely say tonight that inflation was at 1.9%. I know this because his surrogates are saying that. Will he be fact-checked on that? By the way, COVID, he'll use COVID as every cover. Number of jobs. Like, he starts the recession with COVID as though that's all economic growth for him. So here's some of the biggest ones. And I want to say, I'll ask you guys as well, and I'll tell you which ones I've fallen for. This is an inventory that's been created on X of hoaxes. All right. So we just talked about Trump called neo-Nazis very fine people. Jussie Smollett. Anybody here fall for Jussie Smollett even for a minute?
Big time.
Two-A-Days?
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. I felt really hard for that one, and I felt so stupid. But yeah.
Two-A-Days. You thought that let me just get this straight. Well, you thought I don't think he was a main character. I don't know because I never watched it. But you thought one of the characters from Empire, which airs on BET, went out for a Subway sandwich at 1 a.m. and was recognized by two white nationalist MAGA guys walking around urban Chicago wearing MAGA hats and said, "This is MAGA country," happened to have bottles of bleach on them, poured it on him, and, by the way, either quickly found, "Get a rope, boys," and fashioned a noose, or just were walking around and had a noose, threw it around Jussie Smollett's neck. He went home without ever taking the noose off, called the cops, and you bought all that.
Well, saying it like that, I guess.
That's everyday behavior.
But no, I think my fault was just not reading enough about it, which, I guess I'm just a sheep.
Well, that's what happens. People just read a little bit about stuff. Mm-hmm. Here's some more. Not all of them are directly tied to Trump, but they create the environment around Trump. Bubba Wallace had a noose placed in his garage at a NASCAR event. Of course, everybody knows where I was on that because I think I was one of the guys out front going, "Doesn't smell right." Mm-hmm. And, I mean, look at FBI investigated. The biggest piece to me on this one was, do you know that those NASCAR garages are randomly assigned like the night, like right not long before they park their cars?
Yeah.
It's like, who would have come in and hung a noose in Bubba Wallace's garage? Did anybody buy Bubba Wallace's thing?
No, sir.
No guilty parties. What's that?
You learned after the Jussie Smollett thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good point, by the way, actually. Did you think that the Covington kids stood in the way of a Native American and acted in I don't even remember what it is now.
He smirked.
Lordly white supremacist manner?
No. Not
you bought it tinfoil?
For like the first couple hours, I kind of fell for it. And then you started seeing more about it, and then it was like, oh no, this is wrong.
All right, here's some better ones that deal directly with Trump. Did anybody think that Trump... I think there's people that still believe this, so I'm actually curious, mostly with two-a-days, if you believe this, that Trump said drinking bleach would fight COVID?
Damn. Yeah. I did fall for that for sure.
That Trump said you should drink bleach?
Yeah. Well, because you see things and you know, and if they're repeated enough on social media, you start to just fall for them. But I did my own research after that and realized.
You're not supposed to do your own research. That's the sign of a fool. Didn't you learn that during COVID?
You're right.
What about COVID lab leak conspiracy? Did you believe that it was more likely anyone that it came from? I'll admit to you this. In the beginning, like they were talking, I knew about the Chinese wet markets and they eat weird stuff. And that made a little bit of sense for a minute until you learned that there was a COVID research facility right across the street. Yeah. And by the way, I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people went with, like, where did this come from? Could it be the wet market for a minute? Right?
Yeah, I felt pretty duped by all the COVID stuff, like pretty hard. I fell for that. And I was like, you know what? You can't say that. You can't say it's from China. I fell into that whole trap, and, you know, now you learn.
What about border agents whipping Haitian migrants at the border?
That was a cheap fake.
No way.
Not even a second, right? Nobody bought that.
We were on that. Like, we talked about it on the show, so we knew we sniffed it out right away. So,
absolutely. Didn't make even a bit of sense. This one, I was in sports media. I was at ESPN. So I will tell you, like Steele dossier, Russia collusion, this stuff hit the level of like keeping up with the war in Afghanistan for a decade with every detail every day. I mean, I had no idea what to make of any of that because you were inundated with names and the latest Rachel Maddow breathless expose. So I didn't believe it. And I didn't know whether not to believe it. I didn't know anything. I was just kept in a state of confusion, which I actually think most people were and might have been the point until we started learning about the Steele dossier. Where were you guys on all that?
What about you, James? You fall for that one?
We knew that was nonsense from the transition on.
To be honest, I never thought about it until we started doing it on the show.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Yeah.
But James, he always knew. Tinfoil.
Very smart. Very smart.
James is plugged in, as they say.
Yeah. How about Trump used tear gas to clear a crowd before the Bible photo?
I believe
you still think that might have happened 2 days?
I believe that one. Yeah, I was kind of like that sounds like
to this day.
I believed it. I just had no problem with it.
Up until I saw it on this list, maybe.
So
I still think.
What about ivermectin?
No.
What about ivermectin?
No.
Horse dewormer? Did you buy that?
Well,
here's a good one. Officer Sicknick was murdered by protesters. I bet 2 Day still believes this one too.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. BYU students hurled racist insults at a Duke volleyball player. We did that one here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't here with that.
But see, the thing is, by the time that one came around, we'd already been through Jussie Smollett and Bubba Wallace. I think we'd learned never trust this stuff early on. Go ahead.
No, I feel like there's little trigger things you could start to suss out when you like hear these stories, right? They all kind of have similar.
Like Trump grabbing the wheel.
Yeah, they have little undertones of things. Like this is going to be a fake one.
Trump grabbing the wheel of the beast.
Yeah.
Or Trump overfeeding koi fish in Japan.
Sure, be cool if he did.
They get similar.
Exactly. That's what I mean, yeah.
I'll tell you, establishment was all in on the beast. He bought that one.
I did. But I thought it was cool. I was like, wow, he started driving. He took control. That's the kind of leader I want.
You took it the wrong way.
You bought that because you liked it.
Yeah.
Trump leaning over from the back seat and grabbing the wheel.
The wrong way.
It's so ridiculous. There was another one I wanted to do here. It's really good. There was the Trump ignored Russian bounties on American soldiers in Syria. Remember that? Everyone bought that one for a minute. That one was run all over the news. The thing about all of these is it's a little bit like what you said. Ghost of Kiev was out there killing Russians everywhere, like killed 100 Russian pilots. One guy, he was like Iron Eagle back in the 80s. No one knows that movie, Iron Eagle, but me. Lou Gossett Jr. The thing about all of these is it's exactly what you said 2 days. It washes over you and then is repeated ad nauseum, and it becomes fact because they get simplified. That's for one thing. Really good. Like this list, which is really good of all of these, it's like you can reduce them into like one line. You know what I mean? And then people just believe it and repeat something simple over and over and over enough. Like, I'll tell you this, like when we did the fact check just the other day about the Very Fine People hoax, there is a significant percentage of people that do not care.
Yep.
They'll believe it anyway. And they will say things like, saw it with our own eyes. You know what I mean? And I saw one comment on X that said, you're a liar, and had I'm a liar, and it had the transcript of what Trump had to say, right? And it highlighted where he said, but of course, you know what? It's this long. It cuts off where he says, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis. But they don't care. They don't want to believe the truth. They love the lie. And the truth is too complicated. It requires more time or more context or more explanation when the lie is so perfectly simple and short and repeated over and over. And many of these, I guarantee you, many of these will come up tonight. And I have no hope that CNN will fact check Joe Biden on any of these. But I have every faith they will be fact checking Donald Trump at every possible opportunity in the CNN presidential debate simulcast on Fox. A lot of reaction to our conversation, our one-on-one with movie star Kevin Costner. I want to react to some of your reaction. And we'll draft Kevin Costner projects next on The Will Cain Show.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com.
Saturday is baseball night in America on Fox.
What a catch!
The brightest stars.
There we go!
And the biggest games take center stage.
Oh, baby!
This week, Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers battle the Giants.
That is a monster shot!
Or Corey Seager and the Rangers take on Gunnar Henderson and the Orioles.
Wow!
It's baseball night in America, Saturday at 7 Eastern on Fox.
It's time to take the quiz. 5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to the quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
Big one-on-one interview with Kevin Costner here on The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, Fox News YouTube, Fox News Facebook. Hit subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. And you folks had a lot to say about our conversation with Kevin Costner. I'll bring back in the Willisha, Two-A-Days Dan, Young Establishment James, and Tinfoil Pat. So it's kind of interesting. Tinfoil texted us yesterday on the internal Will Cain Show text chain, something about watching it over and over, the interview. And you know what's funny is rewatching it, I experienced that interview differently. Sounds weird, but than to do the interview in person. I really did. And look, there are places where I want to force humility, and there are places where I just want to be real. I really pride myself on being able to do interviews, and part of it is connecting with other people. I had not the easiest time connecting with Kevin Costner. That's being real. So therefore, I experienced it different than when I went back and watched it, and I listened to him, and I'm like, I could have done a better job of being present and listen to what he's saying, because now that I hear what he's saying a second time, I don't think I heard everything. I don't think I heard everything in the moment. And that's what I want to do. I want to hear everything someone is saying in the moment. And I actually thought he's being really thoughtful. He's trying. It doesn't mean I agree with him. And my favorite thing that Costner said was towards the end, when he's talking about being around people you disagree with, and he says, and I say, yeah, and this was a Max Kellerman line, in a debate, one of two things happens. I win or I learn something. And then Costner goes, or a third thing, I think about it for a while and want to revisit it and keep coming back, which just showed an earnestness and thoughtfulness to continue to, I don't know, it's way more sincere and endearing for me than I gave it credit for originally. Not that I hated it. It's just I don't know. I found sincerity and earnestness, but that's not what everybody felt, right, Two-A-Days?
That's right. Or you're just that good of an interviewer that you just got the best out of them. That could be it too.
Even when I'm on my B game.
Yeah, that's right. No, some people had some comments, and we were looking at them, and a lot of kind of just blind hate for people in Hollywood. Yeah. And I knew it was coming before you even did the interview. I knew we were going to get these. Ones like this right here, if you want to read it.
Does he have any, this is from Roddy Mosley, does he have any idea where America is right now? Doesn't sound like it. He looks and sounds like another Hollyweird sellout. Yeah. Here's my thought on that. Yesterday we had Pete Hegseth on the show for a while, and Pete said something that kind of reflects this, and I agree with in part. Pete said, look, he's just an actor. And so I don't really care what he has to say about politics or anything else. And that's fun. It's a position that I've held in part. So here's what I mean by that. These people, just because they're good at acting and have become famous, have no extra credibility or insight than any average everyday person. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. So you don't give them extra credit. You shouldn't give them credibility. But I think in turn, you shouldn't also give them extra dismissiveness. You shouldn't automatically hate them for the same reasons that another person would give them credibility. Let me see if I can explain a different analogy. You think about people that are born rich and people that are born poor. It's easy to hate the person that's born rich, but you shouldn't, right? Because he had no more impact on that outcome than the person who's born poor. The question is, what do you do with it? Do you take what you were given and do more? Whether or not it's poor or rich, or do you do less? If you're born on third base and you retreat to second, that doesn't deserve credit for a double, right? But if you're born on third base and you bring it home, you deserve credit for advancing the ball. I do think that's true. If you're born poor, same thing. Do you increase your station in life or decrease your station in life? And that's where we get how to judge you. And it's like I apply it to celebrity as well. I'm not going to give you any more or less because you're famous. I'm going to judge what you have to say on its own merits. And I don't know. That's how I feel about it. And I think that a lot of us have just fallen into the reactionary thing, like famous, therefore liberal, therefore dismissed.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, like The Rock endorsing Biden, they're voters too. But to what point do you want to hear a celebrity have a platform to give you a political opinion? And there's another comment like this here.
Yeah. Let's see. Richard A. Smith says, really couldn't care less what Costner has to say. I don't have to care to listen. I just don't think because you are a Hollywood star, you're an expert in politics. The has-been on every side of the spectrum. He's a good actor and should stick with that, not a leader. But see, I agree with the first half of that. You don't have to listen to him because he's famous. But you listen to him to find out if what he has to say is interesting, right? And I guess even for me, when they disagree with me, yeah, but is it interesting in any particular way? I don't know. I just think that Patrick, you texted this into us yesterday that before, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I never asked you about it. You said before I joined the show, I used to just hate instinctually anyone on the other side.
Yeah. Well, just not just on the other side, but just, you hate what you don't know. And so you see people who, like in Hollywood, for example, who you make assumptions about, or you see people in news media, even in political talk, and you just assume that they're a bad guy because they hold different opinions than you. But it's an assumption that's not true. And as I've gotten to know more people, it's like I see that's wrong, But
here's the catch: some do, right?
Yeah,
and that's what you have to be able to acknowledge. Some, it's true, live in an elite bubble and think that reflects the world. That's 100% true, right? And it may or may not be true with Costner. I don't know, but the point is, you got to leave yourself open. It's like racism, like leave yourself open to individuality. Like, you've got to have enough curiosity to hear what someone has to say and leave yourself open to. Maybe they actually have something interesting to offer. And not just because they're a celebrity, or not just because they disagree and they're a celebrity, are they immediately worthless. You got one more, 2 days?
Yeah, I do, yep. Here we go.
Gloria Womack says, not interested in Hollywood freak who backed Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, he did. Liz Cheney, I know for sure.
One more.
Winers of America says, Kevin Costner is a far-left liberal. He doesn't get to pretend that he's not after the Joe Biden's
Bleep Joe
show. I don't know what that means.
Bleep Joe.
I stopped watching his entitled ass a long time ago. Well, that's a shame because he's actually a really good actor, and that's another. I really like his characters, and I really like his movies. Real quick, in fact, let's draft his projects. But real quick, Patrick, finish that thought.
Oh, well, I'm going to say, Kevin Costner is an actor, but he's also a producer and director. I mean, he's one of these people that is thinking. He's not just like Brad Pitt, isn't like that. He is just a
How do you know?
Puppet, but I don't know.
How do you know?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm making assumptions.
That.
That's the point.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
You want to know that. You want to know that.
So.
You want to jump into the comment section, tinfoil. Okay, you think so. So maybe you should join the comment section. You really should. Don't get fired.
On a burner.
No, I think you guys should all jump into the comment section. Just be careful.
Yeah.
That laugh, he has no idea how that sounds.
You don't know how you sound. It's different.
I know. Okay, last thing here. Let's. By the way, Costner and I also share a lot of the same interests, meaning like the Old West and sports and politics, for that matter. I mean, and I like the characters that he. So we thought we'd do a quick draft of Kevin Costner projects. This can include TV, fellas. The draft order in a snake draft, we're going 3 deep. Is Will, 2-a-days, Pat. No, I got that wrong. Will, Pat, 2-a-days, James. That's how we're going to go. Maybe you can give a little underbred music here to keep this draft moving better than the NBA draft last night. I'm going to have the first pick in Kevin Costner projects, much to the dismay of 2-a-days, Dan, with the first overall pick, the movie that I could watch over and over, the character that I love, Roy McAvoy. I am taking Tin Cup.
Damn. That's a good one.
All right, you're up, tinfoil.
To stay true to my brand and go with JFK.
Oh,
of course.
Wow.
100% true to your brand.
That's exactly you.
All right.
All right. So I may have duped you with the Tin Cup because it's actually Field of Dreams is my favorite movie. I've watched it twice in a row one time.
Well, here's the thing. I like Field of Dreams, but I think people pretend to like Field of Dreams more than they actually do watch it.
You are so right.
That's not a movie that people rewatch as often as they pretend. Where Tin Cup, if you're scrolling through and that's on TNT, too bad. You got sucked into the black hole. I'm watching Tin Cup. I'm all the way in. This is going to be harder for young establishment James because Most of these heyday movies came out before he was born.
He didn't know any.
So it'd be interesting. What
And
do
you already took? You already took.
What
some
did
of the
you
good
draft?
Ones. I'm gonna go with 13 Days. Is that you still up to do?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
And then I have another pick.
No,
Top
I
of
like it.
second round.
Yeah, snake draft. You get 2 in a row.
Bull Durham.
Damn.
Solid all around. Now let me be honest.
Damn it.
Have you watched Bull Durham? You're
Yeah.
like 24.
Yeah,
Have you watched Bull Durham?
It's always playing on the MLB Network.
It's true.
You're a big baseball guy. I would take Bull Durham over Field of Dreams.
I don't know about that.
That's the truth. Like,
Ooh.
and I like Field of Dreams, but I think Bull Durham is eminently more watchable, rewatchable. And I think people actually behave like that. What I am saying and say something different.
All right, my turn.
And 13 Days is great. 13 Days is great, by the way, James. Yeah,
Good
you're
question for Biden.
So I'm going to go surprise here. Another baseball movie, but For the Love of the Game. It's a romantic movie.
No, it's great.
I love that movie so much, and I don't care if someone calls me corny. It's amazing.
I'm with you. I love it. I got to mark it off the list here so I can keep up with what's left
I took
here.
it from you, huh?
Keep a list of your 3 picks. We're going to see who has the best one. All right, back to you, Tinfoil Pat.
Ooh. I'm going to have to go with Waterworld. I think it got panned early, but it's making a recovery. People go back and look. Oh,
that's a
not
very
too bad.
Pat movie.
I don't hate it, actually. I think it got a little overpanned. It's an interesting concept.
Right.
The world is flooded with water. We got a whole new thing where we live on like islands and man-made islands. It's great. We ride jet skis around. Like that elevator pitch is amazing. Could have left out the gills.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I got to get a Western in here at some point. We've really picked over the sports movies, although Draft Day hanging out there.
Oh.
And
Damn it, he said it.
one of the best movies ever made about being an NFL GM. Maybe the only movie. And I got to pick 2 here. Highwaymen, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Hatfield and McCoy's, that was good. I've got to take, though, something. There's 2 that are in the running for the best ever Kevin Costner movies. That's Dances with Wolves, obviously, and this one, which I'm going to take, which is Untouchables. So
Another one. That's such a good one.
I'm taking Yeah. So in true snake draft fashion, I've got to take a Western because this is just I've got to, and it could be open range. I thought about that, but we said all Kevin Costner projects. And I'm gonna let one of you guys have Draft Day, and I'm gonna take Yellowstone. I think it deserves to reach the top of his career, so I'm taking Yellowstone.
Yeah, we started watching that again in my home last night because of the Kevin Costner interview.
Oh,
yeah,
nice. All right, who's up for the last round here? I think it's Tinfoil.
Patrick.
Yeah, I'm going to go chalk here, just like James would, and go with Dances with Wolves. I would like to point out, though, Field of Dreams, you've interviewed 2 people from that movie now. You had Timothy Busfield and Kevin Costner.
When did I have Timothy Busfield?
The Field of Dreams game like a year or 2 ago.
Oh, yeah. At the Field of Dreams. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
We just have to keep going down the list.
I don't remember all my interviews. Good job. All right, Dan, what do you got?
I'm going off the board here, a little weird, but I love this movie so much, and you're going to laugh at me, but The Bodyguard. I mean, come on.
Over Draft Day.
Yes, over Draft Day. I'm taking The Bodyguard. I love
fallen.
that movie. It's a great
Let me just get this straight.
It fell.
You're home on a Saturday afternoon. You're traveling out of town for business, or you're on an airplane. You are watching or downloading for the plane Bodyguard over Draft Day.
Yes.
I don't believe you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am.
Anti-Brown hatred.
All right. You get the last pick, Young Establishment James. There's going to be some big stuff left on the free agency market after your pick. Let's just review what hasn't been picked. The Highwaymen, Hatfield McCoys, Wyatt Earp, Molly's Game.
Haven't seen it.
Underrated movie. Open Range. It's about gambling. Open Range. But it sounds to me like you're going Draft Day. Is that where you're going?
And it fell to me. You gotta go with it. It's a more highly accurate and better movie than Moneyball. Got to go with it.
All right. I don't begrudge it. All right, really quickly, I just want to compare who got the best slate. So, James, your 3 movies you drafted are what?
Draft Day, 13 Days, and Bull Durham.
Solid. 2-a-days?
Field of Dreams, For the Love of the Game, and The Bodyguard.
Last place. Tinfoil.
JFK, Dances with Wolves, and Waterworld. Those are pretty.
Out.
Those are pretty.
It's between me and James.
Damn.
It's between me and James. And
they're 2 8-star movies.
I have 10 Cup, Untouchables, and Yellowstone. I think that it's between me and James for the best Kevin Costner draft
Well, that's
slate
just like
project.
your opinion,
We should
man.
put that out on social media.
If
Answer in the comments.
If you had my slate, you'd be saying you're winning.
Well, I've admitted I'm a big man. I've already admitted that yours is in the running, James. It's right there. The other 2 are out. Tell us what you think in the comments. Who got the best draft slate? Or on X. We'll put it out on X. I want to hear who you thought had the best Kevin Costner project draft. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on the Will Cain Show. Enjoy the CNN presidential debate simulcast on Fox tonight. And we'll see you again next time.